When you are speaking, I did not interrupt.
You interrupted me.
Would you say that you and other members of the National Assembly are still robbing Nigerians? Has anything changed?
I will not use the same language again.
Why?
I'll tell you.
Engaging interviews with key stakeholders in various sectors.
I'm going to take this question to you now. All of these happening, is it true that this is a ploy to cut the influence of...
You asking me that question?
Yes.
No, please don't use that kind of language. Please, do not insult me.
Okay, I'm not insulting you.
Is your government owing contractors the way to...
How would I know? You send me to go and work in Abuja, I'm a senator in Abuja, I'm not a member of this thing.
Has it achieved what it was meant to achieve, sir?
No, we are not in position. I'm not in position to say that.
No, but you had members on
the part is not...
You are representatives on
the question you're asking.
It is Frank Talk, quality talk, taking it from all angles, policy and politics, played out by our politicians and policy makers. Join me, Femi Olanipekun, your host on Frank Talk, 9 to 10 a.m. every weekday on Rave 91.7 FM, where we have frank discussions and give you quality talk. Always. Let's turn it up.
Relax and unwind because we're going live. 91.7 Wave FM.
Hello, good morning, and thank you very much for staying with us right here on your amazing radio station, Rave 91.7 FM, that station where we bring you lovely musicals blended with quality talk all of the time. My name is Femi Olanipekun. Today, it is the last edition of Frank Talk for this very interesting week, and on Frank Talk, we look at trending issues in the polity, bringing the issues closer to you and helping to have a better understanding, having a deeper insight into the issues that we look at right here, issues of policies of government, as mapped about the policy makers and the politics behind some of those policies as played out by the politicians and the political leaders. Well, one policy and politics that's been hugging headlines, that's been generating so much interest and controversy. Some have said it's actually a scandal. Is the issue of how the NNPC is run. Recall that the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Dr. Ibe Kachuku, released a letter. A letter he wrote was leaked to the public, and in that letter he alleged that the GMD of the NNPC, Dr. Maikanti Baru, was involved in acts of insubordination and then awards of illegal contract in that letter, totaling $26 billion. Some people are saying that is a huge amount, and that in itself is a scandal. The fact that, according to the letter of Dr. Kachuku, they didn't follow due process. What the reaction of the presidency has been muted until yesterday, but then the NNPC reacted, saying, well, that all of what was said in that letter is not true, and that due process was actually followed and approval gotten from the presidency. Well, yesterday, the Vice President, Yemi Osinbajo, admitted first there was a statement issued by his media aide, Laolu Akonde, saying that the contracts were approved by the Vice President. Later on, the Vice President himself, speaking with journalists, said that he only approved loans and not contracts. So what's getting messier, and depending on where you look at, it seems that well, things are not just adding up. Well, some people are saying, is there a cover-up? And some are saying, well, there is nothing to cover up, really. If the president himself is the Minister of Petroleum Resources, and well, did he approve some of those contracts on his sickbed, or was it the vice president who approved some of those contracts? But he actually said loans. That's what we'll be looking at here. We'll be joined shortly live on the line now by an oil magnate who understands the workings of that particular industry. Is the Chief Executive Officer of the Shoreline Group. The Shoreline Energy Group is an energy company with interest in oil and gas, in telecommunications, in energy, and what have you. And also a legal practitioner will be joining us live on the line also to look at these issues, the corporate governance codes involved here, and how these should actually be. What does the law say? What does the NNPC Act says? And then what actually about ethics and standards? So we'll be joined shortly now by Mr. Kola Karim. Mr. Kola Karim is the CEO of the Shoreline Energy Group. He's the Group Managing Director as well as Chief Executive Officer of that particular energy company with vast interest in Nigeria's oil and gas, especially the upstream sector. We'll be joining us shortly live on the line now to look at this particular matter. Tell us as regards what really should be the norm, the situation, how should it work really, and then we'll be also talking to a legal expert to look at the NNPC Act, to look at what the laws of the Federation says, and then to look at what it should be as regards ethics and adhering to good governance codes. That's what we'll be looking at right today. But just to give you some more perspective, especially as regards the reaction of the Vice President, he clarified yesterday that he approved for the NNPC when the President was away on medical vacation. He had approved financing loans and not contracts. According to a statement by its SSA on Media and Publicity, Mr. Lateef, the Vice President, made a clarification while answering reporters' question after the groundbreaking ceremony of the multi-billionaire Boni Border Road project in Boni River State. But then Lateef himself had issued, had earlier issued a statement where he actually said it was contract. So we're joined live on the line now by Mr. Kola Karim. Thank you so much for joining us on Frank Talk this morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning. Well, this controversy, trailing that leaked letter of the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Dr. Ibe Kachuku, alleging insubordination, against the GMD of the NNPC, and most importantly, talking about the GMD awarding contracts without due process, saying that those contracts are illegal. You are a big player in that particular industry, especially in the upstream sector. Tell us, who is at fault here?
Look, I don't think the answer is about who is at fault, who is right, or who is wrong. The situation is who is following the law, what the law says, what the Petroleum Act says. That's the important thing. Look, reality is this. The senior minister, who in this case is the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, is the senior minister. The structure has always been, even from when President Obasanjo held that portfolio as well, the senior minister calls the shots. Like in every other ministry where you have the junior minister, Minister of State, and the senior minister. So it is very clear when the managing director, Group Managing Director of NNPC, seeks approval from the senior minister, who as well is the president, I think the situation is very clear. There should be ambiguity around the structure and way by which it is done, but what is crystal clear is the sequencing of things is not at fault at all from the GMD.
Well, the president was away for some weeks. He was away on vacation and he handed over power to the vice president. One media report initially said that the president approved some of this contract while he was on his sickbed. The president, the acting president then, who is the vice president yesterday, saying now that he only approved financing loans and not the contract. Isn't there some mix-up here?
Look, I think there is a mismatch in what is actually being called contracts. Number one, term contracts of crude oil is not a contract. It is a commercial proposition between a willing buyer and a willing seller, and the model by which this is done is crystal clear. you have a standby letter of credit. So if I'm coming, there is an established contract, but it's not a contract that's been awarded in a way, if you follow me. So there are 3 allegations. The one about the term contract, that is an offer to buy and an offer to sell. You don't need, in a commercial organization, you don't need the board approval, my view, to sell something to someone who's willing to buy at open market price. If you have a business that's selling cars, and I turn up at your door to buy cars, I don't think you need board approval to sell me cars, in as much as you're not selling the cars at a discount. That's number 1. Number 2, on the DSDP position, the DSDP is, I am giving you crude and you give me product. So there is no money involvement. And if there's no money involvement, it's also a commercial contract between 2 willing entities. I don't think you need a board to ratify or approve that. You might need ratification, but board approval is a commercial transaction. The AKK, or the financing contract, again, since when is borrowing money a contract? Yeah, it's a contract award, but the financing contract, the vice president, first let me correct that. In the absence of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the President transmitted a letter transferring his powers to the Vice President. So by de facto, the Vice President at that point in time is the substantive Minister of Petroleum. Do you follow? And being the Minister of Petroleum, in his capacity, he signed off, as he confirmed, those 2 financing contracts. Okay. Now, what are these financing contracts? They are. It is known in the industry that government cannot pay its cash calls. Government has told industry operators, look for funding to fund government. So this contract, so to speak, were funding arrangements. So again, I'm not sure why the term award of contracts. They are not contracts that were awarded. It was operators that brought money to finance NNPC.
So, those things that Dr. Kachuku called contracts, you're saying, are not actually contracts?
No, they're not.
Okay, and let's get one thing clear again. Between the tenders board and then the NNPC board, which one towers above the other? Which one has the powers to approve these loans, be it loans or contracts here? Is it the tenders board or the NNPC board?
Now, by sole definition, a tenders board is when I'm tendering something out that I want. If I am your joint venture partner, and this is what people need to understand, if I'm your joint venture partner, like on this financing, and I am told, let me explain to you in a layman language. People have partnership with NNPC. So Shell, Chevron, these are joint venture partners. NNPC cannot afford to pay its own cash call. So projects are behind. So this government, actually under Dr. Ibe Kachuku, which was a fantastic foresight on his behalf, when he was Minister of State and the GMD, Dr. Ibe Kachuku worked out a way to make payments and negotiate with the IOCs of all previous cash calls that were owed, and he got a fantastic discount for government. He also agreed that the joint venture partners should raise money to finance NNPC's portion, so there is no way NNPC is going to be lagging behind. So most of these things were financing arrangements. So I, as your partner, am going to my bank to borrow money on your behalf and on my behalf. That's what they are. So they are not contracts per se that the tender board needs to look at, because I'm not tendering anything else.
All right. Okay. Okay, well, some people have differed, saying, well, this doesn't actually hold water. Femi Falana, a legal luminary here in this country, actually wrote, a different opinion here, saying Section 6 of the NNPC Act, which has vested the board of the NNPC with the exclusive power to enter into contracts or partnerships with any company, firm or person which is in the opinion of the corporation, will facilitate the discharge of the said duties under this act. And saying, for the avoidance of doubt, Section 1 subsection 2 of the NNPC Act states that the affairs of the corporation shall be conducted by the board of directors of the corporation.
So you are correct, and that is what the act says, but let's also be very, very careful. The President and Commander-in-Chief of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, who chairs the Federal Executive Council, let me repeat, the President chairs the Federal Executive Council, so what you are saying is a misnomer. Because if the board, where the Minister of State chairs, are you saying then that is superior to the board, the Federal Executive Council, and to the President, where the President chairs? You follow me? Right? Because you see, this is the problem. Normally, traditionally, the minister, the senior minister, is the one that chairs the board. So, assuming we have a separate minister of petroleum, senior, he will chair the board of NNPC. By so doing, in some cases, they then take it to the Federal Executive Council after the board's ratification. You follow? But in this situation, the board is also chaired by the Minister of State, who is junior to the senior minister, and the senior minister also happens to be the president who chairs the Federal Executive Council, which is the overall approving authority.
All right. So, in the midst of all of this, what do you reckon to be the position of the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, in this structure organogram? Does he have any relevance at all?
But of course he does, because the president, by so doing, does not have that day-to-day position of administering the industry.
But it is part of this day-to-day. It's part of this day-to-day administration that the GMD has bypassed the Minister of State to go to the Minister of Petroleum Resources himself. So, in a way, just like a sitting duck, a lame duck.
Well, traditionally, this has always been the practice. Traditionally, this has always been the practice in the industry, that the Minister of Petroleum, also in this case that is the President, is the person that confers, so to speak, with the GMD. This has always been the practice. Look, if you go back from when President Obasanjo was President and also Minister of Petroleum, Mr. Obaseki, who was the GMD of NNPC then, reported directly to the President. Okay? So, and that has always been the practice.
But, Mr. Karim, recall that Dr. Ibe Kachuku was brought in ostensibly to clear the mess in the NNPC, to reorganize the NNPC, to effect some changes in the NNPC, and he alluded to that in that letter, saying some of the reforms he has set in motion are being eroded. Don't you think, it's like we want to continue with business as usual in NNPC, that many people believe is the most corrupt government agency in Nigeria?
Look, there is a very practical point. Things have to be done, things have to change, and Dr. Kachuku indeed started a lot of this restructure, reorganization, in making the organization more effective. But Dr. Kachuku was the Minister of State and also the GMD at the same time. Did you follow? So he had the bread, he had the knife. At the same time, he could decide to cut it half, a quarter, it's his prerogative. But in as much as they appointed a group managing director, then you have a separate Minister of State, then you have a senior minister who happens to be the president. The line of sight of the work should have been shared on who does what. Now, whenever you have a blurred structure, that is not clear, we're humans, you will have problems. This is my view.
So, do you, like some people have said, do you read any ethnic sentiments into this issue between Dr. Ibekachukwu and Dr. Maikanti Baru?
No. These are professionals. These gentlemen are consummate professionals. I don't see any tribal undertones onto anything. Look, was there any tribal undertone when Dr. Kachukwu was appointed the Minister of State and the GMD at the same time? But there was no tribal undertone. It is sad that in Nigeria we try to paint things with tribal coloration. These men are professionals, and their job is to do the best in the interest of Nigeria and the industry. And I think that is what Nigerians should be asking for on that level of accountability from all parties.
But, with all of these now, will you say it's business as usual in the oil business space, or are we moving, or have we passed that?
No, look, we are past that. I think there's a lot of sanity ongoing, a lot of sanity being introduced, starting from Dr. Kachukwu into the industry, the sector that is making things move. And it's credit to Dr. Kachukwu, the negotiations for the joint venture task force with the IOCs. Great credit. He got a magnificent discount from the IOCs for the federal government and for Nigerians. But the GMD and his team are also soldiering on in trying to make sure we perfect what has been started.
So, what do you see? I mean, how do you see these impacting on the future, this particular disagreement? How do you see it impacting on the future of the NNPC? Some people have argued that if the NNPC were to be listed on the stock exchange, its figures would have crashed, judging by what happened then. How do you see these, affecting NNPC in the long term?
No, I don't think it's a problem. Look, in the life cycle of any organization, this is just a blip in it. These gentlemen are professionals, and you saw it the other day. They met at the economic summit. What did you see? Right? They're professionals. So, let's step back. Dr. Kachukwu is a renowned lawyer, many years of experience in international organizations before coming into the public sector. Dr. Baru is a professional who has been in NNPC. He understands NNPC. So my reality is this: professionalism would always take precedence over any issue, and that came to fore at the National Economic Summit. You saw both of them. It's in public. You saw both of them shaking hands and happy. We could have disagreements, like we all do, but reality is, if what we have to achieve takes precedence over what needs to be achieved, then that's important.
All right. Well, just before I let you go, Mr. Kola Karim, I just like to confirm, away from the oil and gas industry now, to the era of politics. To the realm of politics. I want to confirm the talk making the rounds that you're under immense pressure to throw your hat into the gubernatorial contest in Oyo State come 2019. Is there any truth in that?
Look, this is the reality. Yes, there's been a lot of talk, a lot of discussion from people that have concerns. But what is important is this: I have that conviction that Oyo State, which is our state, deserves better, deserves a structured, driven chief executive, and it is being considered, put in prayers. And if that decision does come, that it is, then it might just be. But for now, it's just a thought process. I appreciate the thought, but what is important is we need to think of the future of our state to the betterment of all within Oyo State.
All right, well, thank you very much. Definitely take you on that, some other time in the future as events unfold. Thank you so much, Mr. Kola Karim, the CEO of Shoreline Energy International. Thank you so much for speaking with us on Frank this morning, sir.
Take care. Bye.
Thank you. All right. Well, Mr. Kola Karim joining us live on the line there, speaking about the issues in the oil and gas industry, especially as it affects the NNPC and its operations. Mr. Kola Karim is a billionaire, an oil magnate in that particular industry, the CEO of Shoreline Energy International with vast experience across the upstream and the downstream, but a major, especially in the upstream. We'll be switching gears now, going over to the University town of Ile-Ife. We'll be speaking with Mr. Misbau Lateef. He's a legal practitioner to tell us what the law says about all of these, what the law says about the NNPC board and NNPC tenders board, and then the constitution itself, the composition of the board, and then well, what's the role of the Minister of State really is. I'll be looking at that shortly. Right here, we're looking at the NNPC issue. Dr. Maikanti Baru and Dr. Ibe Kachuku. Well, like Mr. Karim said the other time, that when they met at the economic summit meeting, they actually hugged in front of the media, suggesting that, well, they are professionals, that they might have put all of these issues behind them, but then Nigerians are not putting it behind them at the moment. So we're joined live on the line now by Mr. Misbau Lateef, is a lecturer in the Faculty of Law of Femi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife. Thank you so much for joining us this morning on Frank Talk, sir.
Yeah, Femi, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. This issue about the controversy, some people have called it a scandal of the leaked letter of Dr. Ibe Kachuku alleging insubordination against the NNPC GMD and saying, well, he awarded contracts to the tune of $26 billion without due process. What do you make of it? Let me start with that.
Well, let me start by saying that calling it a scandal may not be too far from the truth. So far, we now have different sides of the stories, and because of these different sides, it is not difficult, therefore, for people, to have different opinions. But personally, I do not think it is scandalous as yet. Because, when we say scandal in this climate, essentially we mean financial scandals or fraudulent practices and all of that. And I think that is one, aspect of confusion that has been thrown into everything so far. I think the issues of financial scandal, if that is what scandal is, meant to be in this case, has not arisen yet. At least not even Dr. Ibe Kachuku, who started the whole thing off, has made allegations of financial fraud. But on the other hand, the controversies, the power play, and the embarrassment, that this, has brought to the public for, well, if we want to call those scandals or scandalous too, well, maybe that may not be, too far from the truth. But don't forget that the genesis of this, for me, actually started in 2016. When Dr. Ibe Kachuku himself, was removed as the GMD of the NNPC, and then he was made the Minister of State for Petroleum. For me, that was when, the crisis started, because that put paid to his power, executive power, as a person behind the, control of the NNPC. Under the Petroleum Act, the GMD is the Chief Executive Officer of the NNPC. The GMD is also the chairman of the tender board of the NNPC. For me, that gives so much power to the GMD of the NNPC as against the Minister of State. Of course, the GMD is responsible directly, as it were, to the president, who is the chief executive officer of the country. But this is not to say the NNPC Act does not, or the Petroleum Act rather, does not also recognize the position of the chairman of the board of the NNPC.
Well, part of the confusion.
Dr. Ibe Kachuku occupies.
Okay, part of the confusion, Mr. Lateef, is between the NNPC tenders board and the NNPC board itself. Which one has, the powers to approve contract and, financing loans in this particular instance?
Okay, well, examining the provision of the Petroleum Act and even the Public Procurement Act, what we normally determine who approves what, is the threshold of the contract, the volumes involved. And I would say, depend on this threshold, there are instances where the NNPC tender board, presided over by the GMD, is empowered to award contracts. Okay? And there are also, depending again on the threshold, where the board of the NNPC. But generally, examining the provision of the NNPC Act, the Petroleum Act again, you will see that the power given to the board will seem to be a power merely to, see to it's not really a power to award contract. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not really a power. It's more or less a power to supervise the activities of the NNPC. It is a tender board, in my opinion, and from what I've read from the Act. If you read Section 1 of the Petroleum Act, Section 3 of the Petroleum Act, all of these provisions, they vest or put more power in the tender board as presided over by the GMD, than the NNPC board, headed by the Minister of State.
I don't know if you've seen the position of Mr. Femi Falana. He disagrees. It says Section 6C of the NNPC Act has vested the board of the NNPC with the exclusive power to, I quote, enter into contracts or partnerships with any company, firm, or person which, in the opinion of the corporation, will facilitate the discharge of the said duties under this act. And he's saying, end of good day, he's saying, for the avoidance of doubt, Section 1, Subsection 2 of the NNPC Act also states that the affairs of the corporation shall be conducted by the board of directors of the corporation.
Well, honestly, I've not read the opinion of Mr. Falana, but in truth, I'm aware of the fact that Section 6 of the NNPC Act, gives such power to the NNPC board. But like I said earlier, you see, the power to enter into contract and all of that, the same act again, if you go to Section 3, which makes the GMD, the Chief Executive Officer of the NNPC, that section also empowers the GMD as the chairman, of the tender board again to also approve contracts. So ordinarily one would think, okay, then there is a contradiction, but I would not want to see it in that light. I do not think there is a contradiction. Rather, I would think again the threshold of award of contract would depend where the process or procedure goes to. So if the threshold, for example, is within the power of the NNPC tender board headed by the GMD, well, for me, I will not see any breach of law. But of course, if it exceeds the threshold, now what is the threshold? The threshold is normally released in government circulars, from time to time. So that even as I speak now, I wouldn't know what exactly is the maximum limit, the NNPC tender board, can approve, or what maximum limit will go to the NNPC board as a whole, or even which one will go to the Federal Executive Council. But of course, we are talking about billions of dollars here, or millions of dollars, which analysts have put to about 9 trillion naira. So this is something very, very huge, which ordinarily I think is beyond or should be beyond the NNPC tender board if it's approved as a single unit contract, which is not the case here.
Well, and if you look at the reactions of the stakeholders here, I mean, especially even from the president and NNPC, it's been varied in some sense. At first, we had news that the president approved the contract on his sick bed. Later on, we had, the vice president yesterday saying, well, they only approved loan financing and not contracts. Do you suspect any cover-up here?
Well, it is not unlikely, Femi, because I wouldn't lie to you. And that's why, when I started, I said, well, people who call it scandal, they will not be far from the truth. Because in all of this controversy, they don't seem to really commend any credibility on the part of the players here. I mean, even Mr. Kachuku, Dr. Kachuku himself, the Dr. Baru, the presidency, the controversies, the contradictions, they don't seem to lend credibility to whatever, story each of these sides, is telling. And that is where I think the problem is. But honestly, I think, we have a serious issue here.
Well, if you look at it also from the lens of corporate governance codes, you traced the genesis of this problem to when Dr. Kachuku was relieved of that appointment as the GMD of the NNPC. But recall also at that particular point in time was when the chief of staff to the president, Naba Kiari, was appointed into that board. Is there any ethical issue here having the COS of the president, the chief of staff of the president, on the board of the NNPC? Should it have been in the first place?
Definitely, there are quite many ethical issues, and which run, as you said, against the gray or what we call code of corporate governance. What does corporate governance say? It speaks to the idea of accountability, disclosure, and separation sometimes of regulators from operators. So bringing in an executive appointee of the president, the chief of staff, for example, on the board, these are ethical issues which are quite very, very wrong. And I think the president should normally, correct that immediately. So it normally, again, breaches the code of corporate governance in that you are now modeling the waters. The same person who is the operator in the market or in the system are also, the regulators. Or this, in the long run, the Federal Executive Council may have to preside over some award of contract, and then this will go through the Chief of Staff of the President. Okay, you can even imagine this contradiction. The Minister of State for Petroleum, Dr. Kachiku, is the chairman of the board. And then the Chief of Staff of the President is also a member of the board. Dr. Kachiku has alleged that he wanted to see the President and he was blocked from seeing the President. Okay? Imagine a member of the board where the chair, blocking the chairman. These are the contradictions that are even clearly, without saying more, that are be highlighted from this scenario.
And then, legally speaking, a part of the arguments put forward initially was that the president approved the contract while he was in London, while he handed over power to the acting president here. Is that legally sound? Is it constitutional for the president to have approved the contract?
It is ethically wrong. It is legally unsound. And, of course, it is totally condemnable. Condemnable because when the president was in London, we had an acting president. I remember some of this rumor actually came up at that time, that some contracts award were being taken to London and blah, blah, blah. Of course, we also heard that the president returned some of them to Nigeria and all of that. Well, if anything was done at that time by the president personally, or rather, in his capacity as president, of course, that will amount to illegality because he transferred power before he traveled, and we had an acting president in charge who should have handled all of those. But you see, where you have a system like we have in Nigeria, where people, subscribe more to worshipping as it were of personality than clear adherence to law and code of governance, you will continue to witness, things like this. And if you want me to add this to buttress that point, even the response of Dr. Baru, as believable as it seems, because honestly, when I read his response, compared to what the outburst of Dr. Kachiku, well, for me, Dr. Baru stands so believable as well. But then the arrogance and then the insubordination alleged against him by the Minister of State were quite clear, even from his response. These are things, again, that we will also, guide against. And I think the president has a lot to do, in preventing such embarrassment or insubordination, as it were. You have the Minister of State for Petroleum, who is the chairman of the board of the NNPC, even though there's also a tender board, okay? But then, I think we could do better in our public governance than the embarrassment we are now being subjected to because of maybe lack of proper coordination and lack of focus on the part of those in government.
All right. Well, you said that the response of Dr. Baru, as released by the NNPC, seems plausible to some extent. Then
yes,
what do we say?
I would say to a very large extent, his response for me are very plausible.
Okay. And then,
okay.
What do we now say is the specific role of the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources in this particular structure? Isn't just...
Mr. Femi, Minister of State for Petroleum, honestly, in Nigerian context and even under the law, is no better than the deputy governors, than the vice chairman you have all over the places, and even like the vice president. We all know that, it is a substantive executive officer, the president, in the case of the president, or the governor, or even they are the one who has the levels of authority, even under the law. So for me, really, this also calls to question the idea of Minister of State. And I think it is just a waste of space. And that's why I said earlier that this started in 2016 when Dr. Kachiku was removed. Removing him effectively took the power away from him. And I doubt, I'll be shocked if he didn't know this. Removing him as the GMD of NNPC effectively, forget that he was made the chairman of the board. Okay, again, the chairman of the board was also to day-to-day, affairs of the NNPC. Under Section 3 of the Petroleum Act, it is the GMD. So for me, really, it's quite unfortunate that we are actually saying this, but that is just the reality.
Well, the NNPC is central to fighting corruption properly, in this country. And Dr. Kachiku was brought in, then ostensibly to clean that particular place. Make it better. Make it conform with, corporate governance codes and make it transparent. All of these scandals happening now, how much damage has it done to the anti-corruption fight of this present administration?
Well, we may not be able to, for me, we may not be able to really appreciate the volume of the damage yet. But what is clear is that, it has done some damage. And don't forget that Dr. Kachiku came from a purely, corporate practice, if you like, a background. I mean, a man who was, he rose as high as being the 5-time ExxonMobil in Africa, and an achiever, to that, and a PhD holder and all of that. So I think the president actually made a mistake, honestly, removing him from the GMD position of the NNPC. Seriously. He came from a private sector background. He was completely an outsider from the NNPC. That ordinarily for me, should have been sustained. And that was, I think, the ideal in bringing him in the first place. So removing him midway, for me, has caused a lot of discussion, and again, has turned the NNPC to, if you like, what it used to be.
Well, if you look at the response of the NNPC, responding on behalf of Barrow, they said specifically that they were responding to that letter of Kachuku on the orders of the president. You say, would you agree that the president, has chosen his side on this particular matter?
Has done what?
Has chosen his side, decided to go with Dr. Barrow.
No, I think, honestly, the president did the right thing. Remember when the president came also, I think after Salah, it was reported that Dr. Kachiku went to the president and Barrow also went to the president. And the letter clearly stated that, the president ordered him to respond to the allegation. I think that was the right thing the president should have done. And for me, I think that is quite okay. So he responded, the letter of Dr. Kachiku was already in the public. So then it was appropriate that the response from the NNPC or the GMB of the NNPC should also be made open. And that's why I say, comparing the two letters, I think, there are wrongs in both sides. But then I also found the story of Dr. Barrow, even believable. They're very plausible. He explained the basis. He tried to explain why the board of the NNPC are, without repeating what he said. I found the story also believable, like I said.
Well, and finally, before I let you go, this has been like a pattern in this administration, especially as regards the acts of insubordination. You've had the AGF alongside the EFCC boss. You've had the Minister of Health alongside the the head of the NHIS, and then many other issues like that. What does that say about our structures of governance in Nigeria? Now, how do we address it?
It says not lack of law. We have laws, but unfortunately, it speaks volumes about the ability of people who have elected, to act based on these laws. So, and I think the president should act more presidentially. All of these contradictions, they do not in any way help his government. They do not even encourage honest Nigerians to come and, join government and work for the public. Because if someone like Dr. Kachiku, can be rubbish in quote as he's been subjected to now, but that's what is happening to him. Given the background of where he's coming from, I never imagined this would be happening to him. He should have known better. But unfortunately, if we have a system, that is provincial, a system that does not really give much adherence to rule, then we will continue to witness embarrassing scenario like this. This is very embarrassing. And I think the president, honestly, should relinquish, the position of being a minister of petroleum. I know why they do that. The NNPC is a cash cow, and the president wants to be in control. We saw President Obasanjo did that. President Jonathan, who did not do it, gave it to Desiani, and we all know what Desiani did with that place. So I think the president should hand off being the minister of petroleum and allow the NNPC to be a truly independent, operator in our oil and gas sector. So the president doesn't have to be the minister.
Thank you very much for speaking with us this morning, Mr. Misbau Lateef, legal practitioner and lecturer at the Faculty of Law of Femi, University, Lateef. Thank you so much for speaking with us, sir.
Thank you for me. My pleasure always. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, that's the legal side to this whole matter. It's a continuing issue and definitely an ongoing concern. I'll keep tabs on it also and bring it back to you again. Looking at some people have even said, well, this might be, part of preparations for next year's election for both candidates and then for those who the allegations are being leveled against. We open the phone line so you now to join us to weigh in your own comments. Let's have your own contributions. We'd like you to keep your comments, as I like to say all of the time, make it very short, make it very simple, and most importantly, make it very civil.
You can now join the conversation by calling 0703-175-9177, 0703-175-9177, and 0902-427-3808. You can equally make use of our social media platforms. For WhatsApp, 0703-175-9173, 0703-175-9173. Tweet at us at Rave917FM, and Facebook is Rave917FM. Do remember to turn down the volume on your radio set or move away from it. And please, let's keep our comments civil. Thank you.
Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning, Mr. Femi.
Thank you for joining us. So today, where are you calling from?
God will continue to bless you.
Amen.
I'm Sholama Kanjola.
Where are you calling from, sir?
I'm coming from Oshogbo.
All right, sir.
Yeah, you see, what is happening in NNPC is a calamity. It's very, very wrong. The tender body and the board of directors are there, the members are there. I want to advise, my own comment is to sack the two of them, both the Minister of State and the chairman. In the same vein, the president should please leave the post of Minister for Petroleum. He caused this problem now. If he should put a very nice man in that post as a minister, this all will not happen. His anti-corruption act is totally defeated.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is Abdullah.
I can't hear you clearly. I'd like you to speak up a bit.
My name is Abdullah.
Where are you calling from? Okay, Mr. Abdullah, do you have a contribution?
My own contribution to this matter is that when the tendency is that run this administration, they have
Mr. Abdulaziz, I'm afraid you may have to call back. We can't hear you clearly. Shagwama Wumi on WhatsApp is saying it's petty Nigerians are getting these back from a government they trust so well. Within a very short time, there had been series of mismanagement and financial crisis. Where is the promises and the hope of the masses? Thank you, Shagwama Wumi. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
What's your name? Where are you calling from? I'd like for you to turn down the volume of the radio set when you call, please. Hello, good morning. Let's check another message here. Okay, this one is from Sam from Oshogbo. Mr. Femi, please ask your guest whether the FEC has the power to carry out contract contrary to the act establishing an organization. Well, okay, but our guests are gone, but I think the Federal Executive Council is the body with the powers to actually award some level of contracts, really the highest ones now. Hello, good morning. Okay, this message also on WhatsApp is saying the fellow is merely rationalizing the transaction to cover the lapse. If there is a laid-down rules and channel of communications, it raises suspicion to bypass such protocol. By the way, Kachuku was on set, so why the need to bypass him? Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
What's the name you're calling from?
I know Yakin Lukman from Ire.
Your name again?
Yakin Lukman from Ire.
Thank you, Mr. Yakin.
Yes. I just want to boast the point for the Mr. Ibich Kachuku to be molesting as a state minister of petroleum. No, he has some record. And that record serve him to be the member of the Minister of Petroleum. So for president, or for the Mr. Baru, to impose Mr. Baru as a general.
All right, thank you. Hello, good morning. Hello. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is Taufik. I'm calling from Oshogbo.
Thank you, Mr. Taufik.
Yeah, first and foremost, I will appreciate you guys on the topic you brought up today. Yes, it's a well done job. Because an issue whereby is cutting people around, based on social media and co. And people are having different opinions. Thank you for bringing it up. So my opinion is this, first and foremost, we should thank God for having democracy and having a system like this. All this while, we are not been hearing about all this trash that has been happening. But one thing I need to know that I want even the journalism profession to do more on it. Let's always carry out investigative journalism with facts and figures. For instance, now, the VP is saying that it is financing whatever he approves, not the contract. Please, did contract exist? Please signed by the president? Please, the journalists should go ahead and find out that. And secondly, if you look at the two gentlemen we brought on board today, the first person was like saying the GMB has the right based on his approval. He has the power. Then the second was saying that it's because the state petroleum was removed. That was an accident. Why was you asked? If you're not okay with the position, you resign. Please, let's move forward. God bless Nigeria.
All right, thank you very much. Well, on Twitter, we have some messages here. Oluwaseyi Kenwood is saying, Mr. Femi, something is wrong somewhere. There is a kind of cover-up on this issue. How can the president sign contract in sick bed in London when nobody was unable to get to him? I think Mr. President is very partial and selective in fighting corruption. And BF, tweeting at BF_Funshaw, is saying APC broom has been dipped in oil. It can't sweep corruption again. It's one scandal too many. We are waiting for 2019, Babari Day from Misho. And Nature is saying, of fact, two of them are professionals, but of truth, there are situations that brings out differences of personalities, and this is one. And on WhatsApp, let's check some other messages. This one, I don't think it is right for NNPC boss to bypass the minister in signing the commercial contract, even if the approval lies with the president. The minister needed to be carried along or at best be informed. This is a simple administration procedure. Barry simply riding on the lion back with his relationship with the president. And also, where are we going in Nigeria? We do something in the same process but expecting different results. May Almighty God bless our country, Nigeria. No change at all in Nigeria, just media talk. That's Lateef Adeleke from Oshogbo. And Olu Babalola from the State College of Education, Elisha Campus, saying, I think the delegation of authorities is in key and sensitive position is currently confusing Nigerians. And that is a big blow to this government so far. Good morning. And this one is from Daily Akombi from Jabidesha. Say, good morning, good day, Mr. Femi. This is the cabal at work. God will save we Nigerians from their claws. Thank you very much. Let's see another call. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is Wally. I'm calling from Oshogbo.
Thank you, Mr. Wally.
Yes. My contribution will be that I'm very sorry for this country because Buhari has become a disappointment to everybody. And I'm sure it's no longer in control. We're waiting for 2019. But if we surprise Nigerians that at the end of the day, we see that this government is the worst among the last three governments we have had.
Alaide Majesty saying PMB should know that at the end of 4 years, we'll compare and contrast his with Jonathan government. Hello, good morning. Hello, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Emmanuel from Malaysia.
Thank you, Emmanuel.
Yeah, I thank you for the good work you are doing. Now, I'm not surprised at all. You know, when President Buhari wasn't around, we were saying that a lot of things were going wrong. And some people can see very well are saying, no, nothing is happening. But now, this is an allegation that President Buhari signed. And after he has claimed to have transferred power to Shibado, he is now signing, huge contract worth of over 20 billion naira on his sick bed. What a country. And also, it's just that the president is more interested in allowing a section of the country to be in power. Why removing Kachuku? Kachuku, I can remember very well, is a technocrat brought by Goodluck Jonathan to bring reforms to NNPC. Then why removing him? Keeping him at and bringing another to be at a very, critical.
All right, thank you. Timmy Turner on Twitter is saying, I think Mr. President should sack the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources and the chairman. Thank you. And also on WhatsApp, morning to you. In fact, the corruption in this government to me is getting more than a former government, and this is not what we voted for. Tribalism and favoritism is too much in this government. The Mosumba Batsende from Oshogbo. And this one says, the appointment made by this president has been lopsided. It favors his own people. Dr. Kachiko shouldn't have been removed as NNPC GMD. I can imagine what will happen in the Niger by the Niger Delta guys. That's Adini Yadiola from Malaysia. Well, that'll be all on the program right here today. We'd like to thank you very sincerely for being a part of our world, staying with us all through Monday till Friday for the last edition of Frank Talk for this week. We've looked this morning at the controversy surrounding the award of contracts or loans, depending on which side you look at it, especially stemming from that letter written by Dr. Ibe Kachuku that was leaked to the press and the reactions of the stakeholders. We spoke earlier on to the CEO of Shoreline Energy International, a major oil and gas firm with a major interest in Nigeria's upstream oil and gas sector, Mr. Kola Karim, and also we spoke to Mr. Misbau Lateef, who is a legal practitioner and a lawyer, a lecturer in the Faculty of Law, Femi, Awolowo University Lateef. Thank you so much for being a part of our world. We'll be back here again on Monday for another edition of Frank Talk. On behalf of the team and executive producer Femi Adefila, my name is Femi Olanipekun. Do have for yourself a great day. Bye-bye.